to address these issues and find their voice and find their own moral clarity in this time of such a lack of moral clarity and understanding of what's real. Just a few quick announcements because I want to get them out of the way because we're going to do a special ritual that we're going to invite you to participate in today. And that's why you have a flower or a stone. And if you're online, if you have a flower at home or a stone, you can do it along with us or otherwise just witness what we're going to do, which is really special. And I'll be introducing it to you in just a minute. In your program and posted online is information about our Summer Wednesday programs, Wednesday night. So check that out. Lots of great stuff happening over the summer on Wednesday nights. Also, our camp for the kids is starting on the 17th of June. If you haven't registered your young ones, we invite you to do that. It's going to be a great camp. If you are interested in joining All Souls, today at 12:45, kind of about 15 minutes after this service, up in room 203, you'll have an opportunity to join All Souls. We've been really delighted. People have been joining. About 12 people a month have been joining All Souls for the last year, and we're excited to see so many new people finding All Souls in this time. Also, if you're a visitor here for the very first time, welcome. We have just outside these doors to your left is our Sonnen Library, and we have one of our greeters there to answer questions. You may have questions about All Souls, and that's a place where you can get that. They've got some snacks in there, and one of our ministers will make his way in there as well to answer your questions after the service. And lastly, next week, to continue our Unfiltered series, we are going to have some special guests from Tulsa Chautauqua. If you're aware of Chautauqua, it's an organization that teaches history through theater and dramatization, and so people come forward and they act out first-person characters from history and talk to us in our times. And so we are very fortunate that Chautauqua's theme this year is Lift Every Voice, 60 years since the Civil Rights Act. And so they are loaning us next Sunday for one of our services. We're going to have Coretta Scott King is going to be here. And yes. And then I think in this service, we're going to have Rosa Parks. And so Rosa Parks is going to be here. So you're not going to want to miss that. And the music is going to be by saxophone player Tommy Poole and his band. So yes, you're going to want to tell your friends, come on out. We need to hear from these strong black women voices from previous times right now in these times, because we really need to hear what they have to say to us. I'm looking forward to that. So this morning, we're going to do things a little bit different. Our team here at All Souls, who puts together these services, want to share with you a version of a ritual that was created by a young girl who grew up in this congregation, who we now know as Reverend Dr. Molly Hausch. She just received her doctorate in ministry. She's a minister of our church, Unitarian Universalist Church in Columbia, Missouri. And she and the religious educator Jamila Bachelder came up with this ceremony that we're going to do, and they do it every year around the time of Yom Kippur, which is the Jewish period of atonement. And it's a ritual about promises, and promises made, promises kept, promises broken, and promises renewed. We all, have promises that we've made in our lives. And many of them, I'm sure we've kept. Some of them, I'm sure we've broken, because that's part of the human experience. And this is an opportunity to move towards renewal for those places that are broken in our lives. And it's very special, and I'm so excited to share it with you. We have a special cellist, musician who's with us, Janet Coleman, and she's brilliant and just a wonderful musician. So I look forward to having her music to kind of uplift, bring us up and bring us down, as the case may be, throughout this morning. So it's a symbolic, in this time this morning, we'll create a symbolic circle of promise right up here. And we'll hold it tenderly. And we'll acknowledge how we have broken it. And we will repair it with our recommitment. Yesterday, as you probably know, marked the 103rd anniversary of the Tulsa Race Massacre that happened here in this city. And we want to take this opportunity, as we think about all the promises in our lives, to think about that event and this church's relationship to it, and maybe in some of our cases, our individual relationships to it, as part of this ceremony of promises made, promises broken, promises renewed. So we're going to do this in a little while. You all have a flower and a stone, and we're going to invite you and tell you what to do with those. But I wanted to share with you these words from James Luther Adams, who said, "Human beings individually and collectively become human by making commitments, by making promises." And Martin Buber said, "Human beings are the promise-making, promise-keeping, promise-breaking, and promise-renewing creatures." So with that, I invite you into our space for something a little different today, and I hope you'll open yourself to the power of this opportunity for all of us. It was beautiful this morning at the 10 o'clock service, and it will be beautiful in its own way here at the Point. So with that, I welcome you, and I invite you to join me in the words of All Souls Covenant, which are printed here in your program, and they begin with the word love. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And now with that, I'd like to invite two members of our congregation, Greg Bledsoe and Dorothy Shikoda. They both have been leaders in our intercultural work over the years. They have also both served on our board of trustees. Dorothy was chair of our care teams at one point. So they have just done so much to support our congregation. And they're going to read a very special chalice lighting words called Spilling the Light, which was written by Julian Jamaica Soto.
Some people are used to keeping rules.
Don't cross the street when the light is red. Only sensible.
It turns out that keeping rules isn't the same as keeping covenant, which asks us, instead of keeping a bright line, to keep our promises.
To what have we promised ourselves?
To this moment in time and place.
To this community, and even tenderly interconnected to the planet.
We promise ourselves to the idea that we are each and all human beings.
We promise that there is something moving between us that we cannot tame and cannot measure.
The chalice is a reminder that the flame we keep inside us cannot light the way.
The light must spill out in order to shine.
The thing you must be is yourself.
Unadulterated, shedding the willingness to journey alone, as though you are made of something hard and unforgivable.
You are human.
You belong right here, right now.
And together, we will chase away the sickness, the secrets, and leaving only the open possibility that the future is a space for growth.
for all of us in prison. Circle for release. Circle for the planet. Circle for each soul. For the children of our children. Keep the circle.
Human, unlike any other creatures, is that we make promises. And that is where this ritual begins, with promise. Now, promise has two meanings. Who here, I'm just curious because I know we have some children with us this morning. Who here has made a promise? Anyone? Adults, children, anybody made a promise? Come on, everybody, at some point, right? You're human, right? So we made promises. And sometimes a promise is like, I promise you that I will not eat your dessert while you go to the bathroom, right? That's a promise. We also might make the promise to somebody to say, Mom, I'll clean my room after the movie, I promise. And that's a commitment, right? And then we, as a community, make a promise every time we gather together like this for one of these services. Our covenant is a promise. It's what binds us together. Here at All Souls, we do not ask anybody to believe a certain orthodoxy or dogma or doctrine or any set of beliefs. We give everybody the freedom to follow their own conscience and find out what they value and what they believe individually. Now, how do we do that? We do that because what gathers us, unlike other communities of like this, is that it's not a belief that makes us members of All Souls, but it's the promise that we make to each other, our covenant. So, in fact, if you would help me, if you don't know it, it's written in your program. Let's just say the words of the covenant one more time. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. So that is the promise. If you will agree to do your best to live into that promise with this group of people, you're welcome here, regardless of your belief or disbelief, your questions or your doubts. And the other meaning of the word promise is that we have promise. We are people of promise. We have possibility. So one of the things, we think is, that person is going to be a great mother someday, or father someday, or leader someday. So promise has both of these meanings. We make promises and we have promise. And so what I'd like to invite the children who are here in this service to do is, in just a second, to bring your flowers forward and help us to begin to make by putting your flower on this table here, to help us begin to make our circle of promises. And so if you would, if you're here and you're younger than 18, would you please come forward now and help me to fill this table with a circle of flowers? Thank you so much. We got 3 more coming. You can follow Paula and Hayden and the other teachers to your classrooms as well. They're in the back, and you are welcome to go. You can stay if you want, but you probably will have more fun in your classrooms. Thank you all. Look at this beautiful circle of promises right there from our youngest members. Talk about promise. Those young people are so full of promise, full of our promises. And so the other thing is that we as a community make promises. From the beginning in 1921, when this congregation formed here in Tulsa, this congregation has taken the name and the mission as a spiritual home for all souls, a place for all people. So it is a commitment to love our neighbors as ourselves, whoever they are. It's a promise that's enshrined in the heart of this congregation. It's a promise enshrined in the center of the flame of our chalice. And it is a promise that we continue to make as a community. Now, the next move in this ritual is promises kept. One of the great things about making promises is being able to keep those promises. And we keep many of our promises. And I want to remind you that a few weeks ago, we had 12 of our most delightful 9th and 10th graders come forward and read their credo, their statement of belief from this pulpit here. Now, if you know anything about our services when children are dedicated as babies or as children here in this community, we use these words. We say these words to the family who is dedicating, to the child and to the family during the dedication ceremony. We say, "We the people of all souls, understanding our solemn obligation to share in the upbringing of these beloved children, we hereby pledge ourselves to promote their welfare in mind, body, and spirit to the end that they may grow in beauty, in love, and in truth." So that is our promise that we make to the families and the children of this church. And so we also ask the parents to remember when the child reaches the age of discretion, when they're able to understand what we just promised in their name for them, that we lead them to come forward to acknowledge that promise from out of their own hearts. And that's what we did. We fulfilled that promise with those 12 children, with those 12 youth and their families. And I hope you can feel the resonance of that promise kept. And there are many promises that we keep as a community. We have our covenant of service to one another, to help one another. And our care teams, we have 9 different care teams that do everything from bringing people to appointments, visiting people in the hospital, sending cards, making phone calls. We even have a hospice choir that sings to people as they're dying on their deathbed. We have many ways that we care for one another in this community. It's a promise kept. We also have our community resource bank, which is our promise to serve the community by helping people with hunger. We literally give tons of food to people around this community to help them in their families throughout the year. We also have our Partners in Education, which helps to enhance the education of young people in our community. We have our Voting is Power, which helps to support our democracy. And I could go on and on. You know, we give away our collection plate every Sunday to others to support all kinds of great causes in our community. These are promises kept. We make the promise and we keep the promise. And so I'd like to invite you to think deeply about a promise that you've kept, a place where you've been faithful in your own life to a commitment that you've made. It may be your marriage vows. It may be a promise that you've made to a loved one or to a community or some other way. So think about a promise that you've kept. And as we listen to this next song, I invite you, if you're willing and able, to come forward and place your flag. What I'd like you to do is come forward down the center aisle. You know, if you're on this side, come down this side. If you're on this side, come down this side. And then just come back around the side aisles and place your flower in our circle to build this circle of promises made and promises kept. Thank you. It's beautiful. Look at this beautiful circle of promises made, promises kept. You can see it up on the screen as well. And it's a beautiful thing to be able to make promises, to be able to make commitments. As James Luther Adams says, it's what makes us human. This commitments that we can make and commitments that we can keep. And then we have to be real that we also break things. We break promises, we break hearts, we break glasses and lives, we break things out of carelessness and cruelty. We break things that were never meant to break. We break things because we can't imagine another choice. We break things because we're clumsy. We break things because we're human. This America that Emerson called a poem is still for too many people a lament or a struggle. This Oklahoma, known once as Indian Territory, has at times been for Native Americans more terror than territory. This church that its forebears called All Souls has not always been faithful to all people as the name promises to be. One of our main founders, you may be familiar with Richard Lloyd Jones, who was the owner of the Tulsa Tribune newspaper many years ago, back in 1921. And he played a very significant role in the lead up to and the aftermath of the massacre of 1921 here in Tulsa. Many of you may know that there was a front page article in the Tulsa Tribune that kind of sparked the fury that turned into incredible destruction and death, one of the worst, if not the worst, in the history of this country. And our church never held Mr. Jones to account or asked him to make an accounting or to make any kind of ask for forgiveness or repair in any way. And for more than 80 years, this church never called out his actions or the actions of the massacre at all, just never mentioned it. We, for 8 decades, were part of the conspiracy of silence across this community that didn't talk about it and didn't do anything to redress or repair what had happened. So in that way, this church has broken its core promise with regard to loving all of our neighbors as ourselves and being a church for all souls. And so today, I want to publicly, and I want us to publicly and ritually acknowledge and take responsibility for that broken promise. Because if we don't own it, if we don't name it, if we don't remember it, it continues to weigh on us and the community, and we can't even move to repair it. So we all have broken promises at different times. We have hurt others by our actions or by our inactions. So at this time, I want to invite some of our youth to come forward who are helping us with handing out if they're still here, some of our youth to come forward. And I would like to ask them to take some of the flowers from our circle to represent the promises that each of us and that all souls have broken or have witnessed. Could the youth come forward? Can you all come forward and help us? I want you all to take some of these flowers away to represent some of the brokenness, broken promises, and the broken promise of what could have been. To watch that beautiful circle of promises be broken. We live in tangled lives in a big world that is powered by love and broken by supremacy systems, ideas of supremacy, superiority, one group over the other. And every day we participate in harm without even knowing that we are yielding to breaking a promise. So now I'm going to ask Randy to remove a few more flowers to represent the harms that we have caused, the breaks that we have made for promises without even knowing it, without even being aware. So breaking our covenants, sometimes it's unavoidable. Breaking our faith with life is real. It happens. Precious things are destroyed even when we deeply regret their destruction. Relationships are broken even when we regret their brokenness, even when we feel it's unavoidable. But promises we make, sometimes we break. And precious things are broken too. Part of the work of being human beings